Hello, lovely people. So let's have a little talk about Google's forced dark mode and how we can work with that in email a little bit better. So here's a grid of colours in an email. Now this is what it looks like in Gmail with forced dark mode. But it's not just Gmail. If we look at Samsung email, it looks very similar. And same with a few other Android apps like Yahoo, K9, GMX. Obviously Outlook does its own thing, so we're going to ignore that for now. Now, from what I can see, it appears that all these email clients use Chromium's algorithmic darkening via the Android system web view. Basically, that means they're using the same forced dark mode that we'll get in Google Chrome in the browser. So this is where it gets useful. So let's set this up. Because this is a full browser setting, it's easier to use a separate browser. So for this, I'm using Chrome Canary. So if we go to Chrome://flags and search for dark, now this may have different naming depending on the version, but searching for dark should help us find it. So now we're going to enable forced dark mode and relaunch the browser. Now we can see we have the same color conversion in Chrome, Gmail, and in Samsung. So the way I like to use this for tweaking colors, I'll open an email, open DevTools. So now I'll select a color I'm not happy with. I like to convert it to HSL, which is hue, saturation, and lightness, then adjust the lightness using the arrow keys until I find a color that I'm happy with. Because of the way forced dark mode works, we'll see some big jumps in the colors as we're going through the lightness. However, this will still only be a tiny change when viewed in light mode. Now, once we're happy with the dark color, we'll switch it back to hex and try it in light mode. Now, this may look off in light mode now, so it takes a bit of experimentation, a bit of back and forth to get things just right. Another thing, in the browser, we can use color scheme to stop certain parts of the code getting converted. We set color scheme light only, then that part of the code won't have its colors converted. This is particularly useful for things like icons that have their colors inverted. Now, unfortunately, Gmail doesn't support this yet, but if you are watching Gmail, please. However, clients like Samsung do support this, so we can use it there. Unless you're using Microsoft email accounts like Hotmail, Outlook.com, Live.com, then it gets removed. But again, if you're watching at Microsoft, please. But often when we have support for color scheme, we also have support for dark mode media queries, so there's less of an issue there, but it still can be useful. So a couple of caveats to round off with. This is a browser level settings. Changing the rendering, it's not changing the code. So if Gmail were to bring in forced dark mode into their webmail app, that's going to have to work differently. Now, they may replicate some of the functions, they may sort of use the same kind of logic, but it'll have to be applied in a different way. Another thing, this only applies to Android apps, as this is a Chromium feature, and iOS has a rule that says apps must use WebKit as their browser engine. There is an exception in the EU due to antitrust laws, but that's for another day. So go forth and try it out and let me know how you get on. Cheers. Before you go, a quick update. I built an emulator. So here is an email in Design Studio. I'm going to send this as just sort of for testing purposes, but we've got a load of different background colors here. We've got some border colors and we've got some text colors. This is like a Unicode square character, so it's easy to see the text color on it. So if I go into our preview, so previously we did have a generic forced dark mode preview, but now we have specific ones for both Google and Outlook. So let's look at Outlook one. So you can see how it's converting the colors here. The borders don't really change in Outlook, but we can see how the colors are changed. If I switch over to this is Outlook, and you can see like how these colors are, yeah, they're the same. It's converting it in the same way, which is very cool. Also, if we want to let's look at Google. So Google, as I mentioned in the other video, is the same as the one which you have on the feature flag in Chromium browsers. So here I've got Chrome Canary with the feature flag enabled, and you can see the colors here. And you can see like the big steps that it has, like in the way it converts the colors, and also the way it treats the borders. So these like light blue border around it, how it treats that depending on the background color. So you can see how this sort of reflects here, and then also we've got the borders by themselves sort of at the bottom there. Let's just show you that, so you can see how all that works. So yeah, it's pretty cool. It's really useful. One thing, if I just switch to code view, it's probably easiest to see this here. As I sort of change colors around, so if I do like, let's do bad, like that, you can see that changing here. So we're actually working in real time. So it's not make a change, send a test, look, see how it looks, make a change, send a test, see how it looks. You should be able to get there most of the way from this. So this is live in Design Studio now, so have a play around with it. I should point out as well that this is just looking at the colors. There are still restrictions on the email client. This is not replicating the sanitizer at all. So there's some things that might work here will look different when you send it to Gmail or Outlook or Samsung or Yahoo, or whichever email client you're looking at. So it's not going to be an exact like for like because of the way this, we're not doing any sanitizer emulation. This is just looking at the dark mode colors, but this should help you with choosing your dark mode colors. So give it a try. Let me know how you get on, and cheers.